When Shedeur Sanders faced the Cleveland media, he didn't just field questions, he exposed contrasts. Rich Eisen dives into the uncomfortable gap between Shedeur's maturity and the Browns' hesitant coaching decisions. While Shedeur handled difficult topics with the poise of a veteran, the franchise still seems unsure how to handle him. Eisen raises a concern. Why does it feel like the rookie is the adult in the room? That question, he says, speaks volumes about the state of the Browns' internal dynamics.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Eisen's reaction suggests this moment could force a reckoning inside the organization. Shedeur has already proven he can handle the pressure. Now the spotlight shifts to whether the franchise can. As national media starts focusing less on Cleveland's chaos and more on Shedeur's control, the team's leadership will have to decide. Do they empower their quarterback or risk wasting a rare opportunity for transformation? Let's talk about what just happened in Cleveland. A rookie quarterback walked into one of the most media-worn, reputation-bruised, culturally unstable franchises in the NFL, and didn't just survive the spotlight, he took control of it. That rookie is Shedeur Sanders. And what Rich Eisen saw, and what he reacted to with noticeable urgency, wasn't just media polish. It was leadership. Real, calm, intentional leadership. The kind that doesn't come along often, especially not in a locker room that's been spinning in circles for the better part of 2 decades. What Shedeur did in those press conferences wasn't for show. It wasn't crafted to go viral. It was the kind of performance that lets you know this guy understands the moment, understands how narratives are shaped in this league, and more importantly, how to stay above the mess. That's not rookie behavior. That's franchise quarterback energy. Rich Eisen pointed to it plainly: composure, poise, awareness. That's what set Shedeur apart. Not flashy one-liners or arrogance masked as confidence. Just clear, level-headed responses to difficult, sometimes baiting questions. Eisen knows what it looks like when a young quarterback gets cornered, slips up, or gets reactive. That didn't happen here. Shedeur didn't flinch. He didn't feed the drama. He didn't give the press anything to spin. He stayed in control. He redirected the tone. And what makes that so significant is where it happened. This wasn't a calm, healthy franchise looking to pass the torch. This was Cleveland, where quarterbacks come in with promise and leave with excuses. Where chaos has often been the default setting. Where internal conflict tends to spill into the public every season like clockwork. That's the difference Shedeur brought to the table. He didn't contribute to that pattern, he interrupted it. Instead of adding to the dysfunction, he lowered the temperature. Instead of playing into speculation about coaching dynamics, he responded with intelligence and subtle deflection. It wasn't avoidance, it was leadership. The kind that says, we don't need more distractions. We need direction. And the most fascinating part? The Browns didn't even have to win a game for this shift to begin. All it took was a few press conferences and a quarterback who knew exactly who he was. That's the type of control Shedeur showed. Not over the media. Over himself. Over the situation. Over the story being written in real time. Eisen called it a signal that Shedeur's not just another rookie with upside. He's someone the franchise should already be rallying around. But instead, what we're seeing is hesitation from within the building. Coaching hesitations. Strategic indecisiveness. A tone that still treats Shedeur like a question mark, even though he's answering the biggest question of all. Is he ready? The answer is yes. And Rich Eisen didn't need a box score to see it. What he saw was what Cleveland's front office needs to acknowledge immediately. This isn't someone who needs training wheels. This is someone who's already controlling the energy around the franchise better than some people whose job it is to do exactly that. That's not a luxury. That's a gift. Because for a franchise like the Browns, where the biggest issue has rarely been talent and almost always been structure and culture, this is the moment. This is the fork in the road. They can either take the path they've taken 100 times, dragging out decisions, waiting for leadership to develop while surrounding it with instability, or they can recognize that leadership is already here and start acting like it. You don't delay culture change when it walks through your door unprompted. You lean into it. You let it set the tone. And Eisen knows exactly what it looks like when a team squanders that. That's why his reaction had urgency behind it. Because you only get so many chances to realign a franchise around someone who actually gets it. And you never get to do it for free. There's always a cost to hesitation. Always a consequence to letting maturity sit idle. And that's the risk Cleveland is facing right now. Because Shedeur is already resonating with the fan base. He's already earning trust in the locker room. His interviews aren't just performances, they're messages. Messages that say, you don't need to drag this out. I'm here, I'm clear, and I'm capable. He's not deflecting tough questions to save face. He's handling them with enough awareness to protect his teammates, his coaching staff, and himself, without giving an inch to the media spin cycle. That's rare. You don't often see a player understand how fragile a team's image is while also reinforcing it, without ever stepping into controversy or false narratives. Shedeur isn't afraid of the spotlight. He's just not using it as a mirror for ego. He's using it to bring direction to a franchise that's needed it for years. And this is where the contrast gets loud. Because while Shedeur is bringing stability to the public-facing side of the Browns, the decision-making behind the scenes still feels uncertain. Eisen called it out with tact, but the message was clear. There's a discrepancy between the rookie's clarity and the franchise's confusion. Between the calm Shedeur's projecting and the chaos the organization hasn't fully dealt with. And the longer that gap exists, the more it reflects back on the front office, not the player. Because the more Shedeur shows he's ready, the more it highlights the people who aren't. That's what this whole moment comes down to. Not just Shedeur proving he belongs, but the Browns proving they know what to do with a leader when they have one. It's not about blind trust. It's about seeing what's already happened and aligning accordingly. You don't need preseason games to see who he is. You don't need sideline tantrums or locker room speeches. He's shown you with how he communicates, with what he doesn't say, with the posture of someone who knows what's expected at this level and refuses to let the situation define him. The only question left is whether Cleveland can stop defining itself by its past long enough to build around its future. And that future is sitting right in front of them. So now the clock is ticking, not on Shedeur's development, but on the Browns' ability to meet the standard he's already setting. The longer they wait, the more glaring the indecision becomes. And the more obvious it is to fans, players, and the entire NFL that the old Cleveland might not be ready for the new leader already standing at the front of the room. That's why Rich Eisen's reaction wasn't just admiration, it was a challenge. A dare to the Browns to stop playing small and start leading with the same confidence Shedeur Sanders already brings to every podium he steps behind. If you've been following this rise and you feel the shift, comment below. Let us know where you stand on the future of this franchise. Like this if you see what Shedeur's already building. Share it with someone who's still on the fence. And subscribe, because if Cleveland actually leans into this moment, we're all going to witness something this league hasn't seen in a long time. The Browns, finally, getting out of their own way. And if they do? If the Browns finally choose to listen, not to the noise, not to the doubt, but to the clarity standing right in front of them, they might actually do what no version of this franchise has managed to do in years. Turn the page. Because that's what Shedeur Sanders represents. Not just a new quarterback, not just the next name on the jersey carousel, but a chance. A real one, to redefine what leadership looks like in Cleveland. And the fact that this shift started not with a game-winning drive, but with how a 21-year-old handled pressure from microphones and reporters? That says everything. It says he knows what he signed up for. It says he understands the weight of expectation in a city that's tired of being sold promises it can't cash. It says he's not here to blend into the franchise's dysfunction. He's here to rewrite it. And if Rich Eisen saw that in a few minutes of media availability, you can bet the people in the Browns front office saw it too. So why does it still feel like they're holding back? Why is there still a wait-and-see tone when the signs are flashing like a warning light? This is your guy. Act like it. Because the cost of hesitation is real. The NFL doesn't wait for you to figure things out. The league moves fast. And culture, real culture, is fragile. You can have a leader walk into your building, say and do all the right things, and still lose him to a system too afraid to trust its own instincts. And that's the risk here. Not that Shedeur won't be ready. He already is. The risk is that Cleveland won't be. That's the part no one wants to say out loud, but it's been building for weeks. Every time Shedeur speaks, every time he keeps his composure under pressure, he's not just making a case for himself, he's quietly exposing the gaps around him. The internal indecision. The coaching uncertainty. The organizational pause where there should be momentum. That's not on him. That's on them. And if the Browns don't close that gap soon, the disconnect between the quarterback and the franchise will grow until it can't be ignored. Until the locker room starts questioning who's really in charge. Until fans start wondering why the most mature voice in the room isn't the one making the decisions. Rich Eisen isn't guessing here. He's seen it happen before. And that's why his reaction carried weight. Because he wasn't just reacting to Shedeur's answers. He was reacting to what they represent. A moment of rare clarity in a league, and a franchise, where clarity is in short supply. You could see it on Eisen's face. This wasn't some hot take. This was genuine recognition. This guy gets it. He knows the stakes. He knows the spotlight. And he's not running from it, he's commanding it. But leadership without backing? That's a recipe for burnout. And that's why every day the Browns wait to fully align behind Shedeur feels like borrowed time. Because the longer the organization hesitates, the louder the message becomes. We're not ready to lead with you yet. And that's a dangerous message to send. Not just to Shedeur but to the entire roster. Because nothing fractures a team faster than uncertainty at the top. And when your quarterback is already acting like the leader, but your coaching staff is still stuck in neutral, it creates confusion, division, doubt. That's why Shedeur's media mastery mattered so much. It wasn't just about him looking good, it was about him making the franchise look like it might finally have its act together. He bought them time. He bought them credibility. Now the question is what they do with it. If they move fast, align their messaging, build the offense around his strengths, and trust him as the leader he's already proven himself to be, they could flip the entire narrative, not just for the season but for the identity of the Browns as a franchise. But if they keep hedging, second-guessing, and playing small, they're going to waste the most mature rookie to walk through their doors in years. And let's be honest, Cleveland doesn't have the margin for that kind of mistake anymore. This isn't a team that can afford to miss another opportunity. The patience from fans, the belief from the locker room, the attention from national media, it's all conditional. And it's all being held up by one thing right now, the credibility Shedeur Sanders is bringing to the building every single day. So how long can that last without support? Without alignment? Without full commitment from the people who are supposed to be setting the vision? That's the part Rich Eisen didn't say directly, but it's what his reaction was pointing to. Because everyone's watching now. The Browns, for better or worse, are part of the national conversation again. And not because of scandal or collapse, but because of potential, because of promise, because of Shedeur. And with that kind of attention comes a different kind of pressure. The kind that doesn't care about your process. The kind that wants results. The kind that asks, do you even know what you have? Right now, the Browns have a chance to answer that question with action. Not with more coach speak. Not with vague statements about development. With alignment. With commitment. With full, public, undeniable trust in the leader who's already acting like he owns the role. Because that's the thing, Shedeur doesn't need to be named the face of the franchise. He already is. Everyone sees it. Everyone feels it. The only ones who haven't said it out loud yet are the ones who should have said it first. That's the disconnect Eisen was reacting to. Not just how impressive Shedeur was, but how exposed the team's hesitation suddenly looks by comparison. So here it is. The moment. The chance to do something different. Something bold. Something decisive. Cleveland has a quarterback who's already shown he's bigger than the moment. Now we find out if the franchise is too. And it's going to keep getting louder, because Shedeur Sanders isn't shrinking from the spotlight. He's not deflecting. He's not fading into the background like so many others before him. Every time he steps in front of a camera, every time he answers a question with maturity and precision, he's raising the bar, not just for himself but for the entire organization. That's what Rich Eisen recognized. That's why his reaction resonated the way it did. This isn't about media savvy. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about understanding when to speak and when to say nothing. When to defuse tension and when to command the room without raising your voice. Those aren't the instincts of a rookie. Those are the instincts of someone who's been preparing for this moment long before he ever stepped into an NFL facility. And that's exactly what sets Shedeur apart. It's not just that he answered questions well, it's how he answered. Calm, concise, unshaken. When the media probed into coaching dynamics and potential drama, Shedeur didn't react. He responded. And his responses weren't guarded, they were grounded. He didn't give them anything to run with, but he also didn't come across as evasive. That balance is rare. That ability to hold your line without sounding defensive is a sign of someone who's already mastered the most difficult part of being a quarterback in this league. Being the voice of reason in a room full of noise. And now the question becomes, can the Browns match that? Because let's be honest, they haven't historically. This is a team that's often been defined more by what's going wrong behind the scenes than what's happening on the field. Coaching turnover. Front office indecision. Star players brought in and pushed out before they ever found their footing. Quarterbacks given too little time or way too much. But now they have someone different. Someone who's not just offering potential, but presence. Someone who doesn't need years to develop a voice, because he already has one. A voice that commands respect without needing attention. That calms the storm without pretending there isn't one. That's what Eisen was reacting to. Not just the fact that Shedeur kept his cool, but that he controlled the narrative, at a time when the team around him still seems to be trying to figure out what the narrative even is. And here's the thing, you don't get many moments like this in the NFL. You don't get many players who can walk into a situation as unstable as Cleveland and instantly stabilize it. You don't get many rookies who can sit in front of a media group waiting for cracks to show and give them nothing but composure. That's why Rich Eisen reacted the way he did. Because he knows, this isn't normal. And if the Browns treat it like it is, they'll waste it. Again. They've done it before. They've had top draft picks. Flashy signings. Moments that looked like a turning point, until the internal dysfunction pulled everything back into the mud. But this moment is different because the stabilizing force isn't coming from the top down. It's coming from the quarterback. And that's the irony of all of this. Shedeur Sanders is giving the Browns something they've never really had. A foundation. And he's doing it without needing validation, without needing to prove he belongs. Because when you belong, people know. They feel it. They respond to it. You think veterans in that locker room aren't watching? You think they didn't notice the way Shedeur handled those pressers? You think they're not talking amongst themselves about how this guy seems more locked in than some people in the front office? Of course they are. Because leadership like that speaks louder than any stat line. And that's what makes the Browns' current hesitation so risky. They've got the player. They've got the presence. What they don't have, yet, is the alignment. And until they do, everything Shedeur brings to the table is going to be doing double duty, leading the team while also holding the organization together. And that's not sustainable. Not for a 21-year-old. Not for anyone. He shouldn't have to carry the franchise and the franchise's baggage. He's already doing more than most rookies. It's on Cleveland to meet him there, not next month, not mid-season now. Because the longer they delay, the clearer it becomes that the most NFL-ready person in the building might not be the one making the decisions, but the one answering questions about them. Eisen didn't say that outright. He didn't have to. The reaction said everything. Shedeur is ready. The city is hopeful. The media is watching. Now the spotlight shifts from the quarterback to the people around him. Will they respond? Will they finally stop slow playing their own future? Or will they, once again, let fear of failure become the reason they never fully commit? Because make no mistake, if they blow this, it won't be because Shedeur wasn't good enough. It'll be because the people in charge couldn't see what everyone else already could. That this rookie isn't a maybe. He's not a hope. He's a standard. And standards don't wait around forever. So the next move is on Cleveland. And it's not about depth charts or media schedules. It's about acknowledging reality. It's about deciding once and for all whether this is the start of something new, or just another rerun with a different cast. Because the Browns don't just need to support Shedeur, they need to catch up to him. And if they don't? If they keep stalling, keep hedging, keep acting like this is just another developmental arc instead of a cultural reset in progress, then they'll lose more than just a quarterback. They'll lose the locker room's belief, the fan base's trust, the narrative that's already starting to turn in their favor. And worst of all, they'll confirm what people have been saying for years, that Cleveland never knows what to do with a good thing. And if that happens, if the Browns finally let go of the past and embrace what's right in front of them, it won't just be a win for Cleveland. It'll be a win for every team that's ever been stuck in its own cycle of dysfunction. Because if the Browns, of all franchises, can recognize a true leader and rise to meet him, that says everything. But that's a big if, and let's be honest, history isn't exactly on their side. We've seen how this goes. We've seen talented quarterbacks come into Cleveland with promise and leave with trauma. We've seen the front office mismanage timelines, we've seen coaching staffs struggle to adjust, and we've seen the same tired narratives rinse and repeat. But what we haven't seen, until now, is a player who flips the script before even taking a snap. Shedeur Sanders is doing just that. Not by throwing deep bombs in training camp. Not by talking trash or demanding attention. But by calmly, consistently, and unapologetically leading. Every press conference. Every interview. Every time a reporter tries to dig into controversy, he doesn't just sidestep it. He reframes it. That's power. That's presence. And that's something the Browns have never had at this level. Rich Eisen wasn't impressed just because Shedeur said the right things. He was impressed because Shedeur understood the moment. And more importantly, he controlled it. That's what sets the tone. That's what separates a guy who can play in the NFL from a guy who can lead in the NFL. And Eisen, who's seen more young quarterbacks come and go than we can count, knows what that looks like. He's seen potential before, but he's also seen what happens when a team doesn't know how to handle it. That's why his reaction wasn't just praise, it was a warning. Because Shedeur is doing everything right. But if the organization doesn't follow his lead, if they keep waiting for the right time to fully empower him, they're going to fall behind their own quarterback. And that's when things get dangerous. Because if the fans see Shedeur is ready, if the players in the locker room feel that Shedeur is ready, if the league starts talking about Shedeur as a leader before his own team does, then the narrative turns. And suddenly the Browns aren't the team with a rising star. They're the team dragging him down. They can't afford to let that happen. Not again. Not when they finally have someone who can speak for the franchise without creating chaos. Someone who can walk into a storm and be the one who calms it instead of adding to it. Someone who doesn't need to be handheld through the media machine, but who can shape the headlines before they're even written. That's the quarterback you build around. Not cautiously. Not slowly. Immediately. You align the coaching. You simplify the messaging. You rally the locker room. You remove the distractions. And you trust the guy who's already showing you he's trustworthy. Because the window for transformation is open right now. And Shedeur Sanders didn't kick it open by accident. He walked through it with intention. So here's the choice. Keep hesitating, keep holding back and risk losing it all, or lean into the leadership you already have, and let this be the beginning of something real. If you're ready to see the Browns finally get it right, drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you've seen enough to believe Shedeur is the real deal. Share this with someone still clinging to the past. And hit that subscribe button, because whether Cleveland steps up or slips back, this story is just getting started.